My name is Zach Clausen. I'm the program director. This is our, I guess, third or fourth year of doing virtual open houses since 2020, I guess. This is a very similar slide to what you may have seen on YouTube, with the exception that we are now the Department of Urology as of July 1st of this year. So we're very excited about that. Dr. Terrace has worked hard over the last several years to get that approved, and we've now got that, and so we're very happy about that. It gives us obviously independence, and we're running our own show now, so we're excited about that. So just to kind of get going here, this is a slide I showed last year, which I think is helpful. It basically is the 2024 match timeline, and so obviously registration's already opened. The preference signaling begins. I'm sure all of you, if not everyone on the call, is aware that there's now 30 signals. So the strategy or the process has changed a bit from 5 last year to 30 this year. So we'll see how that works out. The SAU announced that relatively recently. And so make sure you get your signals in that 2-week time frame between September 1st and September 15th. We then receive them at the end of the month. The interview offers are sent out on October 27th. And you can see the subsequent dates of receiving offers, the flush day, and then we basically have this timeline between roughly the end of October or early November and the rank list deadline of January 9th. So I think most programs will probably be doing their interviews between November and Christmas. There may be a couple that'll have theirs after Christmas, but the match date, obviously, the big day is February 1st, 2024. So our 2 interview days are already set. So take a screenshot of this or write these down. But basically, we're going to do our interviews on Saturday, November 4th and December 9th. So this is where Augusta is located, for those of you maybe in other parts of the country. Basically, I'm going to bring this back up at the end to sort of highlight some of the cool things around here. But we are located on the sort of eastern side of the state, right on the border of South Carolina. So right across the river is North Augusta, which confusingly is in South Carolina. So we'll bring this back up shortly at the end of the top. So MCG is an old med school. We've been around since 1828. We're the 13th med school in the United States. I think we're now in the top 10 in terms of size. We've got several. Our flagship campus is obviously in Augusta, but we have several campuses around the state. And so it makes us one of the bigger med schools in the country. We merged in 2013 with the undergraduate campus, which was called Augusta. Now it's all under the umbrella of Augusta University. There's 10,000 students, 1,000 full-time faculty. And so it's really a college or university town at its heart. In terms of the health sciences campus, obviously there's the Department of Medicine, MCG Dentistry. It's the only state dental school in Georgia. We have a huge graduate studies program, nursing and allied health, with a ton of NIH funding, putting us in the top 10 in the nation in terms of funding per faculty. In terms of the hospitals, the AU Medical Center, which is what Dr. Terrace and I are sitting in right now, is 478 beds. Right across the street is the Charlie Norwood VA Medical Center, 156 beds. And right adjacent to us is the Children's Hospital of Georgia, which is 154 beds. So this is actually, in fact, it's a very bad Google image of kind of where we are, but it kind of highlights everything in terms of the proximity. So the VA's over here, the main hospitals in this area here, attached to the Children's Hospital. We're sitting kind of right in this area where that red dot is. The Cancer Center, where Dr. Terrace and I have clinic, is kind of back here in the bottom right corner. And we've got the dental school sort of back here on the bottom left corner. So everything is very centralized to this area in downtown Augusta. This is some pictures of the main hospital. This is on the bottom left is our medical office building, where the general urology clinic is, where Dr. Santa Maria, Dr. King, and Dr. Simmons have clinic. And then this is one of the wings of the hospital. You can see this is the street here that crosses where the VA is on the right side of the screen. This is the Children's Hospital of Georgia. built about 25 years ago. It's a great facility. Dr. Morgenstern, obviously, their pediatric urologist, works there. Beautiful facility, just right attached to our main hospital. This is our VA, standard looking VA, busy VA. Dr. Dykes leads that and does a great job. And it's a great training facility for our residents. This is the dental college, quite a new building. I think it's less than 5 years old, and it's just about a 3-minute walk from the hospital, sort of on the same campus. This is the medical school building, the J. Harold Harrison Education Commons. Beautiful facility. Our students can attest to that who are on the line. Built about 6 or 7 years ago. Really state-of-the-art facility for our medical students. And this is right adjacent to the dental school. So our cancer center, I sort of pointed it out on the map earlier. Great facility. Everything is sort of under one roof with the clinics and the infusion centers. We're now adjacent and connected to the research buildings. And so it's a great place for our cancer patients to come see us. This is a view of that research building. You can see this is a new connection here between the outpatient building and the research building. And so everything's very well connected, and we give good collaborations with our basic scientists and translational scientists. So this is a map of Columbia County. So Richmond County is where the hospital is, and about 15 to 20 minutes straight, I guess, west of us is Columbia County. It's one of the fastest growing counties in the state of Georgia. And it's where we are expanding from a hospital and from an outpatient services standpoint. So part of that is the Surgery Center of Columbia County. Dr. Santa Maria spends several days a month out there. And we're looking to expand even further to the Columbia County Surgery Center. We're also in the middle of starting to hopefully break ground soon on the Columbia County Hospital, which will be, like I said, about 20 minutes from this hospital. So this is something we're going to see how this evolves in terms of what procedures are being done there, in terms of what resident coverage we would have. Will sort of depend on the level of case complexity at this hospital. So we're hoping this will be built sometime in the next year or two. In terms of our program, we're pretty standard program. We're a 5-year fully accredited program, 1 intern year, 4 urology years. We currently have 14 residents. We are approved for 3 residents per year in 2019. And so currently we have 3 residents each in the PGY 1, 2, 3, and 5 year, and 2 in the PGY 4 year. So we'll be rounding out to a full complement of 15 here in the very near future. In terms of the rotations, this is sort of the breakdown of where everybody is. So PGY 1 is pretty standard in terms of 6 months of general surgery and 6 months of urology. The general surgery rotations are sort of handpicked for several reasons. One is acuity, so ACS, acute care surgery, and obviously ICU rotation. And then the other ones are just kind of the better rotations out of the general surgery. So the minimally invasive surgery, transplant, surgical oncology, and pediatric surgery are some of the better rotations on the general surgery side of things. And then your PGY 2 years split 4 months each as sort of the clinic pre-op resident at AU, the VA, and pediatric urology. Your PGY 3 year has several months of research split as well between the AU adult service and the VA. And then PGY 4 year is heavy on pediatric urology, a couple of months of urogyn, some months as an AU senior, kind of functioning as a budding chief. This is towards the end of the academic year, and then a couple of months of elective time, which our residents have historically gone and worked with our close colleagues at Augusta Urology, which is the big private practice group in town, and they've really enjoyed that. So currently we have 3 chief residents. So we have a chief at the VA, we have a chief resident running the oncology service, and 1 running the benign service at AU. And oftentimes this results in a really good opportunity for the 2 chiefs to operate together. So we've been doing this for the last month, and it's worked really well. I think Mike's on the line, so you can probably speak to that as well. Our call is pretty straightforward. It's in-house for the general surgery portion of PGY 1 year, and then it's split into a junior call pool, which is the 2s and 3s, and a senior call pool, which is the 4s and 5s. And there's always a senior and a junior on call with the attending. We typically do weekend blocks of Friday to Monday. So you can do the math. It's usually on call every 5th or 6th weekend, which isn't too bad. We don't allow any moonlighting, and we strictly adhere to the 80-hour work week. So if you get roughed up on a weekend, we'll get you home for a nap on Monday. So we have several strengths of our program. We have a robust clinical experience, a lot of pathology in this part of Georgia, diverse faculty and residents, a very aggressive and organized didactic program with strong faculty participation and lots of opportunities for research, whether that be translational, basic science, or more of a population clinical direction of research. This is a older slide, but I think it still fits pretty well. This is the national median of sort of some of the index cases that you need. And just sort of looking at an overview, this is the MCG median. So we're essentially higher than the national median for all of these major categories for graduation in terms of which cases you need to do. This is one of our former chief residents' final operative log. And you can see green is good. That means they got all their cases, but you can see just looking at the numbers briefly that they're quite a bit higher than the minimum needed to graduate. And I think, numbers are nice, but you can ask the current residents that the majority of these cases were done by the resident. And so I was explaining to somebody last week that we're kind of a old school mentality in that you come here to operate, but we're kind of a new school mentality that we're not going to make your life miserable. And I think that also results in good resident wellness, as well as the ability to do those cases at their level. So these numbers are good, but it also deeper than that shows that they're doing the cases as well. All right, so our roster for our program is already met Dr. Terrace, who's our chair of the Department of Urology. She's urologic oncology, did a residency at Duke, and for general surgery, and then urology residency at Stanford, followed by urologic oncology fellowship at Stanford. I'm a product of this program, graduated in 2016. I also do urologic oncology and did my fellowship at the University of Toronto. And then Dr. King is our assistant program director and sexual medicine and prosthetics expert. She's also one of my co-residents, graduated a year before me, and then did a San Diego sexual medicine fellowship before coming back to MCG as staff. Dr. Morgenstern's our chief of pediatric urology and the medical student clerkship director from Atlanta, but did his training up in the Northeast at Long Island Jewish for both residency and fellowship. Dr. Santa Maria, who's on the line, is been with us for 3 years now and did his residency at Emory before a career in private practice, and then coming to join us in July of 2020, I believe. Dr. Simmons also joined around that same time. He did his residency at the Cleveland Clinic, did about 10 years in private practice, and does a great job with our robotics and general urology program at MCG. Dr. Dykes is the chief of the VA and has been in that role for about 7 or 8 years now. Did his residency at Tripler Army Medical Center, does a great job leading our VA program. He's got a couple of colleagues at the VA. Dr. DeCaro is from Emory, does general urology and telehealth for our VA program. And then recently joining us is Dr. Pugliese, who's a general urologist. She spent some time at our Fort Gordon Hospital, Eisenhower, and has come over a couple days a week, and hopefully will be doing more work with us. And she trained at Madigan Army Medical Center. We have some additional faculty that we work with. As I mentioned, you do Urogyn as a 4th-year resident. Dr. Lanzer is running that program, and she's joined this month by Dr. Joseph, who's fresh out of fellowship. And then we have a powerhouse basic scientist team with Drs. Bal and Lokeshwar, who have probably about $10 million in funding between the two of them. And they're great working with the residents, and you can spend some time with them typically during that 3rd-year rotation. And they're great about putting residents on abstracts and having them present work at the AUA if it gets accepted. So, of course, we cannot run without our awesome APP. So we have 4 nurse practitioners. Miranda is in the general urology clinic. The other Miranda and Jill are in the pediatric urology clinic, and then Gina's in the urologic oncology clinic. And so we're hoping to add another general urology nurse practitioner in the near future. We also have 4 excellent nurses at the, physician assistants at the VA. Brian, Valerie, Lee, and Hannah run these 100+ VA clinics that some of you know if you've worked at a VA. So they do a great job of holding down the fort in the clinic at the VA. Kim, who you probably have been in contact with to get on this meeting, is fantastic. I want to say she's 20 to 25 years into being our residency program coordinator, and it just does a fabulous job. And she takes care of not only the residents, but also us as faculty. And Eva is her chief assistant, and Susan takes care of Dr. Morgenstern over on the pediatric side. Our current residents, some of you are on the line. So we have Dr. Lambert, who's from Mississippi. He is joining a private practice group in Cookeville, Tennessee. Next year, Dr. Haifa, product of Georgia, is going to be joining Georgia Urology in Atlanta after graduating. And Dr. Oberle, who is from South Dakota, will be going back to South Dakota to join a practice there. So we're proud of these 3 guys, and we're off to a great start a month into our new academic year with these 3. Dr. Klein is from Florida originally, kind of bounced all over Arkansas, playing baseball, and then ultimately went to University of Arkansas for his medical degree. And Dr. Ma, also a product of Georgia, and one of our graduates from MCG in 2020. They're our PGY4 class. Our PGY3 class is Nate Taylor, University of Georgia, and MCG. Weber Pike, who I think is on the line as well, is from South Carolina and also played baseball at South Carolina. And then Carter Reed, unfortunately went to the University of Alabama, but did come back for medical school. So we only hold it slightly against him. Actually, we hold it a lot against him, but PGY2 class, Drew Saunders did his bachelor's at UAB and then MD at Morehouse. Ed Mackin, Mr. Kansas, BS and MD, and Chen, another Georgia product for University of Georgia, and graduate of our medical school. And our newest minted interns, 29 days into their career, just flying along great. We have Chris Horn from Texas, did his medical school at Auburn. Freeman McCluskey went to the University of the South and graduated from Mercer just down the road in Macon, Georgia. And then Ross, we got a few guys from the Plains these days. So we got Oklahoma, we got Kansas, we got Texas now. So Ross is from Oklahoma, and these 3 have done a great job in their first few weeks of residency. So we've got big expectations for them over the next couple of years. So our conference schedule is as we mentioned, quite aggressive and very much geared towards resident education, particularly that first 5 months leading up to the AUA in-service exam. And so we've got Thursday morning, we've instituted a new SASB review session with the resident led by the chief residents. That sort of switches over to journal clubs after the in-service, so that's faculty led. We have pre-op conference every Monday morning. So it's basically an indications conference, which is helpful for approaches and just having everybody's input. We meet with the Augusta Urology private practice group on a sort of a quarterly basis to discuss interesting cases and go for nice dinners. We have M&M monthly. We have twice a month multidisciplinary cancer conference, which is always good and very well attended by ourselves and MedOnc and RadOnc pathology, etc. And then we have at the bottom part of that AUA sort of prep in services, the textbook reviews and resident lectures, particularly heavier in the summer months of the academic year. We go to several conferences. We have our 50th Rinker Witherington Urology Symposium coming up in the middle of October. So this is a local meeting where we have a lot of the faculty participate. We have a keynote speaker. A lot of the alumni come back, so it's a lot of fun. We have the Mode Memorial Resident Student Research Symposium in February. It gives the students and the residents a chance to present. And then usually that's coinciding with stuff that's accepted to the Southeast section meeting, which is typically in March, and the AUA, which typically is in May or June. AUA Basic Science course is sort of redefining itself. It was virtual this year, and we typically have gone to that. We'll see how that plays out over the next couple of years. And then we also have the Georgia Urology meeting, which is in September. And I've put a couple of pictures of the Cloister, which is a 5-star resort right on the coast, just outside of St. Simons. And so typically our 4th-year residents will go to that. And it's a great weekend. It's a beautiful facility. So that's a perk of the PGY 4-year. In terms of research, so we have 4 dedicated months in the PGY 3-year. We obviously additional is encouraged. We have a research coordination service. I mentioned the Locuschwars already. They're happy to work with the residents during this time. We require 1 published paper per year, as well as presentation at the Mode Symposium in February. So we don't typically align anybody with a faculty. It sort of happens organically. If you're interested in oncology, obviously Dr. Terrace and myself will lead you through that research. If you're interested in stones, Dr. Santa Maria. So we let the residents sort of choose who they want to work with. Dr. Simmons oversees the majority of this program and really starts working with the residents as a PGY 2 to get their plan set up for their PGY 3-year. In terms of where people have gone, so about 1/3 to half of residents in the past decade or so have gone into fellowship. We're obviously heavy located in the Southeast in terms of where folks are practicing, but you can see that we do have folks all over the country: Washington State, New Hampshire, Arizona, all over the place. But obviously, with our location, a lot of folks will stay in Georgia and the border states as well. This is where folks have gone over the last probably 15 years. You can see it's pretty widespread in terms of subspecialties. We've been very successful in matching people in the specialty they want to and typically where they want to go. So if you decide you want to do fellowship, we've got a faculty that has a lot of connections along the way. It's much different than residency, where it seems like speed dating and you're just trying to get in somewhere, whereas fellowship is more of a job interview and you go to a certain place because you want to work with somebody or do procedures like RPLDs in Toronto, which is why I went up there. So it's a much different process, and it's certainly I guess it is easier. It's kind of a little more on the job hunt rather than just trying to get into the club. Standard benefits: health insurance, disability, malpractice, coats and laundry, meals on call, 3 weeks of vacation. We have a very good family and sick leave program. If something happens, and something invariably will happen over 5 years, and you need to leave, we cover you. We've got this happens a couple times a year where people have to leave immediately, and we just tell them to go because family or kids or whoever is sick. This has not been a problem, and I think our residents can attest to that flexibility with their colleagues and with us as well. I will mention we've had successful couples matches. 2 of our chief residents successfully coupled match, as well as Carter, one of our PGY 3 residents. This is our resident gym, courtesy the Pelotons, courtesy of Dr. Santa Maria. Basically converted an office into the gym, and it's actually used more than I expected it to be. So I guess that's good for the residents. But that's just adjacent to our main offices here. We have previously been involved, and also we're sort of the founding city of the IVU Med program, which obviously took a little hiatus during the pandemic, but Dr. DeVries was instrumental in starting this program. And we've had a couple of our residents actually be able to go out and do visiting trips. Dr. Carnes, one of our colleagues who works up in Athens, Georgia now, he went to Haiti in 2018. Dr. Harper, literally like 7 days before the pandemic, went to India. So he got that in right before, I think it was January of 2020. So he was in India doing like 50 PCNLs, and he's now just south of Atlanta in practice. Of course, we have the Masters tournament. Be remiss not to mention that. Great week here in Augusta. It's currently for April 8th to 14th. And typically we try to get everybody who wants to go at least out there once during their 5 years of residency here in Augusta. But if you're not a golfer, that's okay. I won't hold that against you too much. But there's also a lot of good stuff to do here too. So we have Savannah River. We have a gorgeous minor league ballpark where the Augusta Green Jackets play, just across in North Augusta. And they're the low 8 minor league team for the Atlanta Braves. So that's a fun evening. We've got Evans, which is where some of our residents and faculty live. It's a great place where I live. It was voted one of the top places to live by CNN Money in 2020. And so it's a huge community, lots of great schools, and affordable housing as well. Evans also has the Columbia County Performing Arts Center, which is really a top-notch facility, and they've got a lot of good shows come through there. So that's it was supposed to open, I think, in 2020. Obviously, that got delayed a little bit, but it's had a huge program over the last couple of years. So that's also a nice perk of living out in Evans too. All right, so the 3-hour radius of around Augusta. So obviously Augusta is right in the middle. If we go straight west, we get to Atlanta in about 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is where I'll be heading in about 32 minutes to go watch the Braves play tonight. We've got Clemson just up the road. We've got Charlotte is about 2 hours and 20 minutes up the road. Columbia, South Carolina, home of the Gamecocks, is an hour and 20 minutes up the road. Aiken is a big horse community, about 30 minutes up the road. If you go a little further out here to Asheville, it's about 3 hours, maybe just outside of 3 hours. Get to the coast, Myrtle Beach is about 3 hours and 20 minutes. Charleston's about 220. Hilton Head's about 220. And then down here, just outside of the radius, is St. Simon's Island and Sea Island, where we'll be going for the GUA in September. And so we've got a lot of great areas around. I mean, you can be in the mountains in about 3 hours. You got several major cities within about 2 hours, and just a plethora of beach options along the coast from Myrtle Beach all the way down to Sea Island. So it's a great quality of life, easy long weekend trips, certainly on your weeks of vacation, very easy to get to. All right, a few more activities. So we have a lot of running here. The Augusta Half Marathon, Palmetto Peach Half Marathon, the Ironman. We've got tons of cycling along the Greenway, the Augusta Canal. Obviously, we've got a lot of golf courses. And courtesy of Dr. Lambert, we learned last year that Appling, Georgia is the disc golf national headquarters, which is about 30 minutes away. Canoeing, kayaking, fishing, lots of festivals. It's a great climate, so there's a lot of outdoor activities to do. A couple other things. Basically, Augusta's medicine, military, and the Masters, affordable housing. Our population sort of in this immediate area is about 300. It's probably more closer to 400,000 now. The CSRA, which is about 40 miles surrounding this area, is 750. I'll probably update it next year to 1 million. It's growing like crazy. We've got Fort Gordon, which is the big military base. We're the Savannah River site. We're the Club Car headquarters. We're now the Cyber Center national headquarters. As I mentioned, there's lots of opportunities for the arts, lots of playgrounds, tennis courts, swimming pools, and golf courses to keep you busy on the weekends. So we branched out and took a different photo this year. So this is our residence, courtesy of Dr. Terrace, purchasing these sunglasses. If you look closely, they've got, what is it, squash on the eyes. Little play on words for what we typically deal with. Eggplant. Eggplant. Sorry, yes, eggplant. You probably are aware of our vast social media presence, and so Dr. Terrace runs that. And I think I need to update the new Instagram handle, right? It's just MCG, no, not AU anymore. So that one matches the Twitter handle, I believe. So thank you guys for coming today on a Saturday and spending a little time with us.